My name is Gladys, and I just turned 32. As a graphic designer at a major tech company, I should feel successful, but my family has a way of making me feel invisible. They forgot my birthday again this year while celebrating my brother Adam's job promotion on the same day. So I did something I never imagined. I used my recent bonus to buy myself a $60,000 Audi. When I posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Birthday gift," to myself, their reaction was nuclear. Before I tell you what happened at that family meeting, they urgently scheduled. Let me know where you're watching from. And hit subscribe if you've ever had to be your own biggest supporter. Growing up in Portland with my parents and two siblings never felt like those happy family sitcoms. From my earliest memories, there was always an unbalanced equation in our household. My brother Adam is 3 years older than me at 35, and my sister Tiffany is 3 years younger at 29. Somehow, I became the invisible middle child, despite all my efforts to be seen. I still remember my 10th birthday. I woke up excited, had picked out a special outfit the night before, and bounded down the stairs, expecting at least pancakes or some acknowledgement. Instead, my mother Julie was frantically preparing for Adam's soccer tournament, packing snacks and ironing his uniform. When I quietly mentioned it was my birthday, she looked distracted and said, "Oh right, we'll do something next weekend." That weekend never came. Meanwhile, when Adam turned 13 just months later, we had a backyard party with 20 kids, a hired magician, and a custom cake shaped like a basketball court. For Tiffany, the pattern was even more pronounced. Her Sweet 16 featured a rented venue, professional decorations, and my parents splurged on a professional photographer. My 16th birthday passed with a store-bought cake and a gift card to a bookstore. These weren't isolated incidents. Every year followed the same script with minor variations. Sometimes my birthday would receive a rushed acknowledgement, other times complete forgetting. When I turned 18, my graduation and birthday month, my mother spent weeks planning Tiffany's middle school graduation party, but merely handed me an envelope with $200 on my actual birthday, saying, "Get yourself something nice." My mother, Julie, always had criticism ready for my choices. When I decided to major in graphic design, she scoffed. "That's not a real career, Gladys. You should do business like Adam." When I changed my hairstyle, she'd frown and say, "It didn't suit my face shape." When I wore clothes I loved, she'd suggest they weren't flattering. Every decision I made seemed wrong in her eyes. My father Thomas was physically present, but emotionally absent. He never openly criticized me like Mom did, but he never defended me either. He would shrug and say, "That's just how your mother is," as if that explained or excused everything. He'd retreat to his garage workshop whenever conflicts arose, leaving me to face my mother's criticism alone. I started working at 16, taking a job at a local coffee shop. Not because we needed the money, my parents were comfortable middle-class professionals, but because I needed something that was mine, something I controlled. I worked through high school and saved most of my earnings. When college applications came around, I applied for scholarships and financial aid, without much help from my parents, who were busy helping Adam with his business school applications. The only person who consistently remembered my birthday was my grandmother Margaret, my father's mother. She would call exactly at 9:15 in the morning, the time I was born, and sing happy birthday to me. She'd mail cards with thoughtful notes and modest gifts that showed she actually knew me. She remembered I loved watercolor painting and sent me quality brushes one year. She knew I collected vintage postcards and found rare ones for my collection. When Grandma Margaret passed away 3 years ago, I lost the one family member who made me feel seen. She left me her collection of art books and a letter telling me to never stop creating beauty in the world. At her funeral, my mother commented that I was being dramatic when I couldn't stop crying. Over the years, I tried addressing the inequality directly. When I was 22 during a Thanksgiving dinner, I calmly pointed out that they had forgotten my birthday 3 years in a row. My mother immediately became defensive, claiming I was too sensitive and keeping score. My father stared at his plate. Adam looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Tiffany, only 19, then actually said, "Well, you're not around as much anyway," as if my geographical distance justified emotional abandonment. That conversation, like all others attempting to address the family dynamic, went nowhere. I was always framed as the problem, too sensitive, too dramatic, too needy. After enough attempts, I stopped trying. After graduating college, I made the decision to move 3 hours away, close enough to visit for major holidays, but far enough to establish my own life and boundaries. I limited my visits to Thanksgiving, Christmas, and occasional family events like weddings or milestone birthdays, though never my own. Even during these limited interactions, the pattern continued. At last Christmas, my mother spent 30 minutes detailing Tiffany's accomplishments at her marketing job to extended family, then asked me, "Are you still doing that drawing thing for work?" College was both an escape and a challenge. I majored in graphic design at Portland State University, not the prestigious art school I had dreamed of, but the practical choice given my financial constraints. While my parents paid full tuition for both Adam and Tiffany at private universities, I cobbled together scholarships, loans, and worked 3 part-time jobs: barista mornings, campus library afternoons, and weekend shifts at a print shop. The print shop job proved invaluable, giving me early exposure to design software and commercial printing processes. I would stay late after my shifts practicing on their computers when no one needed them. My boss, Jackson, noticed my dedication and started giving me small design projects for actual clients. By junior year, I had built a modest portfolio before many of my classmates had completed their first professional assignment. Graduation came with no fancy celebration. My parents attended the ceremony, but left immediately after to prepare for Adam's law school graduation the following weekend. I watched classmates taking photos with proud parents holding flowers and balloons while I took a selfie in my cap and gown alone. My early career was marked by struggle and scraping by. I landed a job at a small design firm that paid barely above minimum wage. I shared an apartment with 3 roommates in a less desirable neighborhood. Many nights, I ate ramen noodles and worked on freelance projects until 2 in the morning to make rent. When I called home during this period, my mother would invariably compare my situation to Adam's law firm job or Tiffany's marketing position at a well-known company, both of which came with comfortable starting salaries. The turning point came 5 years ago when my portfolio caught the attention of a recruiter for TechVision, a major technology company. The interview process was grueling, 6 rounds including technical assessments and culture fit evaluations. When the offer came, the salary was triple what I had been making. I called my parents to share the news, but my mother's first response was, "Is that company stable? These tech places hire and fire so quickly." At TechVision, I found something I had never experienced before: recognition. My designs were praised, my ideas valued. My manager Paula became the mentor I had always craved, providing constructive feedback while also championing my growth. Team meetings included genuine appreciation for individual contributions, and mine were regularly highlighted. As my professional confidence grew, I invested in personal growth too. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Diana Chen, initially to deal with workplace stress. But quickly, our sessions focused on my family dynamics. She helped me recognize patterns of seeking validation where it would never be given. Through cognitive behavioral therapy, I began to internalize my accomplishments rather than waiting for external acknowledgement that never came. Your worth isn't determined by your family's ability to see it. Dr. Diana would remind me during sessions. Their limitations aren't your fault. I developed strong friendships that became my chosen family. Jasmine, a content strategist I met at work, became my closest confidant. Zach, a photographer I collaborated with on projects, became another core support person. We had weekly dinner nights, celebrated each other's victories, and provided shoulders during defeats. Despite my increasing financial stability, I maintained a modest lifestyle. I lived in a small but comfortable one-bedroom apartment, drove a 10-year-old Honda, and invested most of my earnings. I took one vacation a year, usually a solo trip to explore a new city and visit museums. My mother once commented that my apartment looked student-like when she visited, suggesting I wasn't living up to my potential materially. 6 months ago, the most significant professional achievement came my way. Paula was promoted to creative director and recommended me to take her position as art director. The promotion came with substantial responsibilities, leading a team of 12 designers setting the visual direction for major product launches, and a 40% salary increase plus a performance bonus that would be paid on the company's fiscal year end in June. When I shared this news with my family during a Sunday phone call, my father said, "That's nice, honey," before quickly changing the subject to Adam's consideration of buying a vacation property. My achievements remained invisible, while my siblings' everyday activities were celebrated as remarkable. The internal conflict never fully resolved. Part of me still yearned for parental approval, while another part had grown to accept its absence. Dr. Diana called this my ongoing grief process, mourning the parent-child relationship I deserved, but never had while building the self-validation I needed to thrive. As June approached, I found myself experiencing the familiar birthday anxiety. My 32nd birthday was coming up on the 15th, and despite years of disappointment, a small voice inside still hoped this year might be different. 2 weeks before my birthday, during our monthly family video call, I deliberately mentioned I'm thinking of taking the day off work for my birthday coming up. My mother nodded absently while scrolling on her phone. My father made a non-committal sound. Adam wasn't on the call, and Tiffany was busy texting someone. No one acknowledged the statement. 1 week before I texted our family group chat, "Any plans for next Thursday? It's a special day for me." My father responded with, "Nothing special here." My mother didn't respond at all. Tiffany sent back, "Working late that day," with a shrugging emoji. Adam surprisingly did ask, "What's happening Thursday?" But when I replied, "My birthday," he simply liked the message without responding further. 3 days before I sent individual messages to each family member, to Mom. "Would love to have a quick birthday call on Thursday if you're free." To Dad, "Any chance you remember what's happening Thursday?" To Adam and Tiffany, "Birthday girl, will accept virtual coffee dates on Thursday." My mother responded she would check her schedule. My father said, "Will try to remember." Adam never replied. Tiffany sent back, "Crazy week, catch up soon." The day before my birthday, my bonus was deposited into my account. The amount was substantial, $20,000 after taxes, to 70, a recognition of my team's successful product launch campaign. I allowed myself a moment of pride before the familiar cloud of birthday dread settled in. On the morning of my 32nd birthday, I woke up to 0 messages from my family. I got ready for work, giving myself a little extra time with my makeup, and choosing a favorite dress, trying to maintain the tradition of making myself feel special, even if no one else would. Throughout the workday, colleagues brought cupcakes and sang happy birthday. Paula took me to lunch at my favorite sushi place. My team presented me with a custom illustrated poster they had all contributed to showing inside jokes and meaningful moments from our projects together. These gestures touched me deeply. Yet the silence from my phone, where family messages should be created, a hollow feeling I couldn't shake. At 6:30 that evening, as I was heating up dinner for one, I decided to check Instagram. The first post in my feed was from my mother, a professional-looking photo of Adam in a suit with the caption, "So proud of my amazing son, on his promotion to senior partner, always knew you were destined for greatness." The post had been liked by Tiffany, my father, and dozens of family friends. The timestamp showed it had been posted at 9:15 in the morning, exactly the time I was born, the time Grandma Margaret always called. I sat on my couch dinner, forgotten, staring at the post. The timing wasn't coincidental. My mother remembered the exact time of my birth, but used it to celebrate Adam instead. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. I felt a strange calm descend, the kind that comes when a pattern is so blatant it can no longer be denied or explained away. I called Jasmine, my voice surprisingly steady, as I described what happened. "That's it," she said, her voice vibrating with anger on my behalf. "I'm done with them forgetting you. We're celebrating properly this weekend, but first you need to do something bold for yourself. Something that says you see yourself even if they don't." Like what I asked, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. "Remember that Audi you always slow down to look at when we drive past the dealership? The one you said you'd buy someday when you deserved it. I think that someday is now." The suggestion sparked something in me. I had always admired the sleek Audi A5 coupe with its elegant lines and understated luxury. It represented success without being flashy achievement, without shouting. I had never seriously considered buying one, telling myself it was impractical, too expensive, something for other people. But that night, I opened my laptop and began researching. With my promotion, increased salary, and bonus, the numbers actually worked. I had saved diligently for years, lived below my means, and had excellent credit. The calculator on the Audi website showed monthly payments that fit comfortably within my budget, especially if I made a substantial down payment using part of my bonus. I spent hours reading reviews, watching video tours, and comparing features. The research gave me purpose, channeling my heart into action. Around midnight, I made an appointment at the dealership for the following day, telling myself I was just looking. As I finally fell asleep, I realized no one from my family had called or texted. My birthday had come and gone, forgotten completely in favor of Adam's professional achievement. But for the first time, instead of feeling the familiar ache of invisibility, I felt something new: resolution. The next morning, I woke up wondering if I had been impulsive in making the dealership appointment. In the light of day, would the idea of buying an Audi seem ridiculous? But as I got ready, the determination I felt the night before remained intact. This wasn't about spite or showing off. This was about finally treating myself with the consideration my family never showed me. I arrived at Portland Luxury Imports at 10:30, feeling somewhat out of place among the gleaming vehicles. A salesperson named Marcus approached with a warm smile, not the aggressive pitch I had expected. "I'm here to look at the A5 coupe," I said, surprised at the confidence in my voice. "Excellent choice," Marcus replied. "Are you interested in the standard model or the S-Line package?" My research from the previous night prepared me for this question. The S-Line, definitely. In quantum gray, if you have it. Marcus seemed impressed by my specificity and led me to a model that matched my requirements exactly. The car was even more beautiful in person than in photos. The gray exterior had depth and character that changed with the light. The interior was sleek black leather with brushed aluminum accents. "Would you like to take it for a test drive?" Marcus asked. Behind the wheel, something shifted in me. The engine's quiet power, the responsive handling, the feeling of being cocooned in quality craftsmanship, it all felt right. We drove through downtown Portland along the river and up into the hills. The car moved with precision that made my old Honda feel like a toy in comparison. When we returned to the dealership, Marcus asked, "What do you think?" "I think we should talk numbers," I replied, surprising myself again. In the office, Marcus presented the pricing information. The vehicle's base price was $58,000, and with the options I wanted, it came to just over $62,000. With my planned down payment of $20,000, the financing terms were better than I had calculated the night before. "Is this your first luxury vehicle purchase?" the finance manager asked as I reviewed the paperwork. "Yes," I admitted. "I've been working toward this for a long time." "Congratulations," she said sincerely. "It's always special to see someone reward themselves for their hard work." Those words struck me deeply. When had anyone in my family ever congratulated me that way? When had they acknowledged my hard work as deserving of reward? Signing the papers felt both terrifying and liberating. The amount was by far the largest purchase I had ever made, yet it was within my means. I wasn't being reckless or irresponsible as my mother would undoubtedly claim. I was making a calculated decision to invest in quality and in my own happiness. When Marcus handed me the keys and walked me to my new car, now detailed and waiting at the front of the showroom, I felt a surge of emotion I hadn't expected. This wasn't just a car. It was tangible proof that I could provide for myself what others had withheld: recognition, celebration, reward. Driving home in my new Audi felt like floating. The leather seat seemed to embrace me. The premium sound system played my favorite songs with clarity I'd never experienced in a car before. At stoplights, I caught myself smiling at the steering wheel with its embossed logo. When I parked outside my apartment building, I sat for a moment just admiring the dashboard. Then I took out my phone and called Zach, my photographer friend. "Remember how you've been asking to photograph a luxury car for your portfolio?" I asked. "How about my brand new Audi A5? Zach was at my place within the hour, professional camera equipment in tow. We spent the next 2 hours finding perfect locations around the neighborhood. The car against urban backdrops, parked beside cherry trees in bloom, catching the late afternoon sun in a way that made the paint shimmer. "These are coming out amazing," Zach said, showing me previews on his camera screen. "You look great with the car, too." We had taken a few with me, leaning against the hood, sitting behind the wheel, with the door open and standing beside it, looking off into the distance. I rarely had professional photos taken of myself, and seeing these images, me looking confident beside this beautiful machine, created a lump in my throat. That evening, Zach sent over the edited photos. They were stunning, capturing both the car's elegant lines and something in my expression I rarely saw: pride, contentment, strength. I opened Instagram, something I use sporadically, at best. My last post had been months ago, a sketch I had been working on. I wasn't someone who documented my life online, regularly preferring privacy and authenticity over curated moments. But these photos felt different. They represented a milestone not just in terms of a material purchase, but in my journey of self-worth. I selected 3 images, one of just the car with sunlight glinting off the hood, one of me behind the wheel looking forward through the windshield, and one of me standing beside it with a quiet smile. My finger hovered over the caption field. What should I say? Something about my promotion, about the years of hard work, About my forgotten birthday. Nothing felt right until four simple words came to mind. Birthday gift. To myself. It was understated, yet clear. It communicated everything and nothing at once. It didn't mention being forgotten or seek pity. It simply stated a fact. I had given myself what no one else had. I pressed share before I could overthink it. Then I put my phone down and made dinner deliberately, not checking for notifications. An hour later, I finally looked. The post had more comments and likes than anything I'd ever shared. Colleagues expressing amazement and congratulations. Friends responding with fire emojis and applause. Old college classmates I hadn't spoken to in years, saying they were proud of my success. And then a direct message from my cousin Rachel, my mother's niece. Just a heads up, your mom is freaking out about your post. She called my mom saying, you must be in debt up to your eyeballs, and how could you be so irresponsible? Thought you should know before she calls you. P.S. Car looks amazing good for you. I stared at the message, a strange mix of dread and satisfaction brewing in my stomach. For once, I had managed to make myself visible to my family. Whether they approved or not was secondary to the fact that they couldn't ignore me any longer. My phone began buzzing with notifications almost immediately after Rachel's warning. First came a text from my mother. Where did you get the money for that car? This isn't like you to be so impulsive. We need to talk. I had barely processed that message when another came through from Adam Nice Car. Bit showy for an Instagram post, don't you think? Not everything needs to be public. This from the brother, whose every achievement was broadcast across my mother's social media, as if he had discovered the cure for cancer. Tiffany chimed in next. Oh my God, did you really spend all your savings on a car? You were always the responsible one. The irony wasn't lost on me. Suddenly I was visible to my family, but only because they disapproved of my actions. My birthday had passed, unacknowledged, but my purchase warranted immediate attention. Most surprising was a direct message from my father, who rarely communicated with me independently of my mother. Honey, is everything okay? This doesn't seem like you. Are you having financial troubles you haven't told us about? The assumption that I must be in financial distress to make such a purchase stung more than outright criticism. It revealed how little they knew about my career success, how little interest they had taken in my professional growth. Over the next hour, the notifications continued. My Aunt Linda sent a concerned message about these difficult economic times and the importance of saving for retirement. My Uncle Peter, who had recently bought himself a boat worth twice my car's value, questioned whether I understood depreciation. Then came the group text from my mother to the entire family emergency family meeting this Sunday at 2. Gladys, we expect you to be there. We need to discuss recent developments. The last time my mother had called an emergency family meeting was when Tiffany had dropped out of a semester of college to travel through Europe with her then boyfriend. The gravity with which she approached my car purchase suggested she viewed it as equally catastrophic. My phone rang, my mother's ringtone. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but decided to face her directly. Hello, Mom. Gladys, what were you thinking? $60,000 for a car? Have you lost your mind? No greeting, no preamble, just immediate attack. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, I replied, surprising myself with my calm tone. How are you? Don't be smart with me. Where did this money come from? Are you in debt? Did you take out a loan? I took a deep breath. Mom, I got a substantial promotion 6 months ago that I told you about. I also received a performance bonus last week. I've been saving for years. I have no debt besides my student loans, and I can comfortably afford this car. No one needs a car that expensive. It's wasteful. And frankly, it looks like you're showing off. Interesting that you think so, I said, feeling a strange confidence building. When Adam bought his BMW last year, you posted about how proud you were of his success. That's different. Adam is established in his career. And I'm not. I'm an art director at a major tech company, Mom. I manage a team of 12 people. I've been at my company for 5 years with consistent promotions. Well, she huffed, clearly thrown by my factual recounting of my career. We still need to discuss this as a family. Sunday at 2. Be there. Why does my personal purchase need to be discussed as a family? I don't recall us having a meeting when Adam bought his car. This isn't just about the car, Gladys. It's about your whole attitude lately. That caption about a birthday gift to yourself was clearly passive-aggressive. I almost laughed. It was a statement of fact. My birthday was Thursday. No one in the family acknowledged it. I bought myself a gift. A brief silence followed. Had she truly forgotten? Or was she just uncomfortable being called out? We've been very busy, she finally said. Adam's promotion has been a big deal for all of us. Yes, I saw your post about it. Posted at 9:15 in the morning on my birthday, the exact time I was born. Another silence. Sunday at 2, she repeated firmly. We need to clear the air about all of this. After hanging up, I called Dr. Diana. She listened as I recounted the conversations and my mixed feelings about the situation. What do you hope to achieve by attending this meeting? She asked. I'm not sure, I admitted. Part of me wants to skip it entirely. Another part wants to go and finally speak my truth without backing down. Those are both valid options, she said. If you do go, remember that you're not responsible for their reactions to your boundaries or your success. Their discomfort with your independence is not your problem to solve. We spent the rest of the session planning strategies for maintaining emotional boundaries during the meeting. By the end, I had decided to attend, but had also set firm limits on what I would and wouldn't discuss. That night, I sat in my new car in the parking garage, running my hands over the steering wheel. For the first time, I fully grasped that my family's approval was something I had been chasing, but would likely never catch. The realization was both painful and freeing. Sunday arrived with a mix of dread and determination churning in my stomach. I had rehearsed what I wanted to say, prepared responses to predictable criticisms, and set firm boundaries in my mind. Dr. Diana's advice echoed. You're going as an adult, not as their child seeking approval. The drive to my parents' house took just under 3 hours. My new Audi handled the highway with smooth precision, the comfortable seats making the journey less physically taxing than it would have been in my old Honda. I played empowering music through the premium sound system, building my confidence with each mile. As I turned onto the familiar street of my childhood home, I felt my heart rate increase. The row of parked cars told me everyone had already arrived. I deliberately parked the Audi directly in front of the house, rather than tucking it away down the street, as part of me wanted to do. The car wasn't something to hide. It was a symbol of my success and self-regard. I sat for a moment, gathering my courage, then walked the short path to the front door. Before I could knock, it swung open to reveal my father looking uncomfortable, as always, during family tension. You're here, he said, stating the obvious. Everyone's in the living room. The scene inside was exactly as I had imagined. My mother perched on her favorite armchair like a judge presiding over court. Adam and Tiffany occupied the couch, both checking their phones, but looking up when I entered. Various aunts, uncles, and cousins filled the remaining seats, including Rachel, who gave me a subtle, supportive nod. All conversation stopped as I walked in. Several pairs of eyes darted to the window where my Audi was visible, then back to me with expressions ranging from disapproval to curiosity. "Gladys, thank you for coming," my mother said formally, as if this were a business meeting rather than a family gathering. "We've been concerned about your recent decisions." "Which decisions exactly?" I asked, remaining standing, rather than taking the lone empty seat that would have put me directly in the spotlight. "The car, obviously," she replied, gesturing toward the window. $60,000 is an enormous amount of money to spend impulsively. "It wasn't impulsive," I corrected calmly. "I've admired that model for years, researched it thoroughly, and made sure it fit within my budget before purchasing." "But the timing," Adam interjected. "Right after your birthday with that caption. It seemed like you were trying to make some kind of statement." "I was making a statement," I acknowledged, "just not the one you think. I was celebrating myself and my achievements since no one else in this family seems inclined to do so." The room went quiet. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. "That's unfair, Gladys," she finally said. "We've always supported you." "Have you?" I asked, feeling strangely calm. "When was the last time any of you acknowledged my birthday, or my promotion 6 months ago, or any professional achievement I've had in the past decade?" My father shifted uncomfortably. Tiffany suddenly became very interested in her fingernails. Adam crossed his arms defensively. "We're not mind readers," my mother said. "If you wanted a birthday celebration, you should have said something directly." I almost laughed. I did, multiple times. I mentioned my upcoming birthday on our family call 2 weeks ago. I texted the group chat about the special day coming up. I sent individual messages to each of you. And still nothing. "We've all been very busy," my mother insisted. "Adam's promotion has been a major event." "Yes, I saw your Instagram post about it. Posted at the exact time I was born, 9:15 in the morning, on my actual birthday. So you weren't too busy to celebrate Adam, just too busy to acknowledge me." The pointed observation landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples of discomfort through the room. My Aunt Linda audibly gasped. Rachel suppressed what looked suspiciously like a smile. "This isn't just about your birthday," my mother deflected. "It's about this extravagant purchase and flaunting it online." Speaking of finances, she continued changing tactics. "We were planning to ask for your contribution to Adam's wedding next spring. But if you're spending money like this on cars, perhaps you're not in a position to help." And there it was, the real reason for this emergency meeting. Not concern for my financial well-being, but concern that my independent spending might affect what I could give to Adam. The revelation created a strange clarity, like fog suddenly lifting. "I wasn't aware I was expected to contribute to Adam's wedding," I said evenly. "Especially since you paid for Tiffany's entire wedding 3 years ago without asking for contributions from anyone." My mother flushed. "That was different. Your father had just received his bonus that year." "And I just received mine," I countered. "Which I chose to spend on myself for once, instead of trying to buy the family approval that never seems to come no matter what I do." The room went silent again, but this time the quality of the silence was different. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was revelatory. I had named the dynamic that had shaped our family for decades. "What do you mean by that?" my father asked, speaking up for the first time since his greeting at the door. I took a deep breath. This was the moment Dr. Diana and I had prepared for, the opportunity to speak my truth clearly, without being derailed by emotion. "I mean that for as long as I can remember, I've been invisible in this family. My birthday's forgotten, while Adam and Tiffany's were celebrated elaborately. My achievements dismissed while theirs were praised. My needs considered last, if considered at all." I turned to face my mother directly. Mom, do you remember my college graduation? You attended the ceremony but left immediately after to prepare for Adam's law school graduation the following weekend. No celebration dinner. No photos, nothing. I shifted to look at my father. Dad, when I told you about my promotion to art director 6 months ago, you said, "That's nice," and immediately changed the subject to Adam's vacation property. I gestured around the room. This emergency meeting about my car purchase is the most attention my life has received from this family in years, and it's only because you disapprove, not because you're genuinely interested in my success. My voice remained steady, but I felt tears threatening. Do you have any idea what that's like? To grow up feeling fundamentally less important, less worthy of attention and celebration, to achieve things you're proud of, and have them met with indifference by the people who are supposed to care most. The room remained silent, but the expressions had changed. My mother looked stunned. My father appeared stricken. Adam stared at the floor. Only Tiffany met my eyes, her own showing a dawning recognition. I never, my mother began then, stopped. We never meant to make you feel that way. Intent doesn't change impact, I said, echoing Dr. Diana's words. And the impact has been decades of feeling invisible and unworthy. But we've always treated all our children the same, my mother insisted, though with less conviction than before. It was Tiffany who surprised me by speaking up. No, Mom, we haven't. Gladys is right. I've noticed it too, but never said anything because it benefited me. The admission from my typically self-centered sister stunned the room into silence again. Remember when Gladys made the dean's list every semester in college, and we barely acknowledged it, Tiffany continued. But when I made it once, we had a special dinner, and you posted about it online. My mother's eyes filled with tears. I didn't realize. Of course you didn't, I said not unkindly. You've never had to think about it because it didn't hurt you, but it hurt me. It's been hurting me my entire life. My father stood up suddenly. I should have seen it. I should have done something. He looked directly at me, perhaps truly seeing me for the first time in years. I'm sorry, Gladys. The simple apology, the first I could remember receiving from either parent, threatened to unravel my composure. I nodded acknowledgement, but didn't trust myself to speak. My mother wiped her eyes. Well, what do you want us to do? We can't change the past. The defensive tone had returned, showing how quickly she retreated to familiar patterns when challenged. No, you can't, I agreed. But you could try to understand how your actions affected me instead of immediately becoming defensive. You could acknowledge the pattern instead of denying it. You could try to do better going forward. And you could try to be more understanding of how busy we all are, she countered. We can't always remember every date. And there it was again, the deflection, the shifting of responsibility. I realized with sudden clarity that this conversation was becoming circular and no meaningful change would come from continuing it. I think I've said what I needed to say, I said, straightening my shoulders. Whether you choose to hear it or not is beyond my control. I moved toward the door, feeling emotionally drained, but also strangely light, as if a weight I had carried for decades had finally been set down. So you're just leaving, that's your solution, my mother called after me. I turned back one last time. I'm not leaving the family, Mom. I'm leaving this conversation that isn't productive. I've built a life where I'm valued and celebrated. I'll always leave the door open for better relationships with all of you, but I no longer need your approval to know my worth. I walked out to my Audi, aware of faces watching from the window. As I drove away, I felt neither triumph nor despair, just the quiet certainty that I had finally spoken my truth after years of silence. The immediate aftermath of the family meeting left me emotionally raw. I pulled into a park about 20 minutes from my parents' house, turned off the engine, and finally allowed myself to cry. The tears weren't just from pain, but also release, the unburdening that comes from finally speaking long-held truths. After composing myself, I called Dr. Diana. Though it was Sunday, she had offered to make herself available, knowing how challenging the meeting would be. I said everything we practiced. I told her, my voice still shaky. But I'm not sure it made any difference. My mother immediately went defensive again. Change rarely happens in a single conversation, Dr. Diana reminded me. You planted seeds today. Some may take root, others won't. But the important thing is that you honored your truth. Tiffany surprised me, I admitted. She actually spoke up and confirmed what I was saying. That's significant, Dr. Diana observed. It suggests the dynamic isn't as invisible to others as you might have thought. We spent the next 30 minutes processing the experience, identifying moments of strength and clarity, and planning self-care strategies for the coming week. By the time we ended the call, I felt centered enough to drive home. The following week passed in relative silence from my family. No texts, no calls, no social media interactions. I focused on work exercise and spending time with friends who lifted me up. Jasmine took me out for a belated birthday dinner, complete with cake and thoughtful gifts. Zach invited me to an art exhibition opening where he introduced me to other creative professionals. These gestures of genuine celebration helped soothe the lingering hurt from the family confrontation. On Thursday evening, a text came from my father. Been thinking about what you said. You were right. I never stood up when I should have. Working on doing better. Brief and imperfect, but the most direct acknowledgement he had ever offered. I replied simply, "Thank you for hearing me." The weekend brought an unexpected visit. I opened my apartment door to find Tiffany standing there, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Can we talk?" she asked. Over coffee at my kitchen table, Tiffany shared her own perspective on our family dynamics. "I always knew you got treated differently," she admitted. "But I was selfish and liked being the favorite daughter. It was easier to go along with it than question it." "Why did you speak up at the meeting then?" I asked. She twisted her coffee mug thoughtfully. "Seeing you stand your ground like that, it made me realize how wrong it's been all these years. And how I've been complicit." Our conversation opened a new chapter in our sisterly relationship. For the first time, we talked as adults rather than competitors for parental attention. She asked genuine questions about my work, my friends, my life. I did the same for hers. When she left 3 hours later, we hugged, not the perfunctory family gathering hug, but a real embrace. 2 weeks after the meeting, my mother finally called. I braced myself, but answered. "Gladys," she began, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "I've been doing some thinking." What followed wasn't a full apology or complete acknowledgement, but it was something. She admitted she might have shown favoritism over the years, though she insisted it was never intentional. She acknowledged forgetting my birthday this year, and several others. She expressed awkward but seemingly genuine interest in my job, asking specific questions about my role and responsibilities. "I can't promise I'll change overnight," she said, near the end of our conversation, "but I'm trying to understand." It wasn't everything I had hoped for, but it was more than I had expected. I thanked her for calling and left the door open for further conversations. Over the next several months, small shifts occurred in our family dynamic. My mother began texting on random occasions, not just when she needed something. My father called independently of my mother for the first time in years just to check in. Adam, after initial distance, sent a somewhat stiff but well-intentioned email, acknowledging that he had benefited from the family's uneven attention and apologizing for not noticing sooner. These changes weren't dramatic transformations. Old patterns still emerged during holiday gatherings. My mother still occasionally made dismissive comments about my career, but something fundamental had shifted. I no longer absorbed these moments as reflections of my worth. They were simply evidence of my family's limitations, not mine. My therapy sessions with Dr. Diana evolved from healing family wounds to building future vision. We explored what I wanted in relationships, career growth, and personal development now that I wasn't expending so much energy seeking validation from sources unlikely to provide it. My friend group expanded as I found myself more open to new connections. I joined a weekend art collective where I created personal work separate from my professional design career. I started mentoring junior designers, finding unexpected fulfillment in helping others recognize and develop their talents. 6 months after purchasing my Audi, I still felt a flutter of pleasure every time I saw it in the parking lot or slid behind the wheel. It had become more than a vehicle, that it was a tangible reminder of my ability to celebrate myself, to recognize my own achievements, even when others didn't. When my 33rd birthday approached, I decided to host my own celebration, a dinner party at my apartment with friends who had become family. I sent invitations to my parents and siblings without expectation, simply extending the opportunity to be part of my joy if they chose. To my surprise, they all came. My mother brought a store-bought cake, not homemade like she always made for Adam and Tiffany, but still a gesture. My father gave me a card with a heartfelt note inside. Tiffany arrived early to help decorate. Even Adam made an effort, bringing a thoughtfully selected book by my favorite artist. The evening wasn't perfect. Old dynamics flickered occasionally beneath the surface. But as I looked around at the mixed group of chosen and biological family sharing food and conversation in my home, I felt a profound sense of peace. I had created this celebration for myself, filled it with people who valued me, and invited my family to join not as the sole source of validation, but as participants in a life already full. The most important relationship I had cultivated was with myself, learning to see my worth clearly, even when others couldn't, to celebrate my achievements without external validation, to set boundaries without guilt, to give myself the acknowledgement I deserved. As my guests departed that evening, my mother paused at the door. "I've put your birthday in my calendar, with 3 different reminders," she said with a small smile. "No more forgetting." It was a small thing, but in the context of our history, it felt monumental. The journey from seeking approval to giving it to myself hadn't been linear or easy. There had been setbacks, difficult conversations, and lingering pain. But standing in my doorway that night, I understood that family relationships would always be works in progress, complex, imperfect, evolving. What had changed irrevocably was my reliance on them for my sense of self. I had learned perhaps the most important lesson: the relationship that ultimately determines your happiness is the one you have with yourself. Have you ever had to become your own biggest supporter when others forgot to celebrate you? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength through life's challenges. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that sometimes the best gift you can give yourself isn't something material, but the recognition of your own worth.